Here we go.
Previous agreement.
Oh, that's right. So here we are. We're going to do using other people's properties without permission. And the story is like this. Shimon occasionally borrows Ari's car. He didn't think he needed to ask permission to borrow Ari's car from the company parking lot because Ari was in the meeting and Shimon would be back well before the end of the meeting. The garage requires everyone to leave their keys in the car, so Shimon got into the car and ran a quick errand. When he returned, the police were on the scene after someone reported that their car was stolen from the garage. Shimon accidentally took the wrong car. While he didn't get into any trouble, he learned an important lesson about borrowing something without permission. Okay? So you have to be very careful that when you're taking a car from the parking lot, even if you think you have permission, you should always find out. Of course, even if he did ask, he still would have taken the wrong one because the guy was obviously absent-minded.
Or he just didn't know what his friend's car really was.
Correct. Right. Okay, so now we have three cases here. Okay? The first case, Leah is walking home from school when it begins to rain. She would like her mother to pick her up and walks into an office building to use her telephone. But there's nobody in the lobby of the building. May she use the telephone at the receptionist's desk without permission? Local call, I have to assume that it is a local call. It wouldn't be no cost to the business.
I would say no.
You would say no. Why?
Because it's a personal property, and somebody, they could be expecting a call, even though they're not right there. That could be recorded while they're gone. You know, like if you wait.
So it could be missing a call. It's a business, by the way, not a private right. So it could be a business. She's secretary. The odds are that it's not that sort of system, but I hear what you're saying. It could be taking time to the telephone. Yes?
No.
No?
No. No, she doesn't have the right. If it were a life and death emergency, I'd say
that's different.
maybe
okay.
different.
Life and death, yes, otherwise no. Yeah?
I agree.
Yes? And
life and death, I can.
only. Okay. Mr. Goldman asked the cashier at a pizza shop for directions to a certain place. The cashier offers Mr. Goldman use of the store owner, he's a worker, store owner's computer who is out for the day. Mr. Goldman is not sure whether the cashier is really authorized to let customers use a computer. May he use a computer?
No.
You say no. Why?
Because he doesn't have the owner's permission.
You don't know that.
Well, unless the cashier was given permission. Oh, if anybody needs to use a computer, you can let them.
Okay. So, but the
it says right here using without permission. So we're going to assume
no,
that
no,
the
no,
kid
no,
didn't have permission.
You don't. There's no. Mr. Goldman doesn't know that one way or another. So if you go into a store, you ask for directions.
But he's wondering. He's wondering.
He's asking the question.
Authorized.
Correct. He's asking, does this kid have the permission to use the company thing? That's the question.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Wow. Why?
Because a computer, you don't know if this kid's a hacker, or he could do something without you even realizing by getting on somebody else's computer.
No, he's working as a cashier, so he's obviously trusted
to
work as a
Yeah.
cashier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The guy's a cashier.
I thought it was
somebody
personal.
No, the guy who's coming in, Mr. Goldman wants directions. So the cashier says to Mr. Goldman, hey, I don't know, let's do MapQuest.
In that case, yeah.
Wait.
You say yes. Why yes? Why yes?
Random acts of kindness. Somebody needs directions. I work here. I use this computer all the time.
You don't use a computer all the time. No, you're not using it. It's the store owner's computer.
Yeah, but he works there, right?
So what? But he doesn't use a computer.
Oh, it is not even in that.
It's not in that room. Right, it's not in that room. It's not like you're coming to my office.
There are lots of details I missed.
It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you.
Them up as we go along. So.
Okay.
All right, I gotta read it.
Here we are, case number 3.
What do you say?
I think that I would first ask the cashier if he's authorized to allow that usage. And if he says no, but the owner's not around.
No.
And if he says yes, would you still feel comfortable?
Just for a quick Google for a direction, I might.
If the cashier himself has permission to use the computer.
We don't know we don't know.
We don't know that it was.
If so, then if the cashier would mind, would look it up
I'd let the
himself.
cashier do it. I wouldn't touch
There
that
you go.
computer.
There you go.
Right.
I
here's where I'm
Okay.
looking for.
Okay. So.
On the other hand, the cashier might be the owner's kid or, spouse or whatever.
Right.
He also has to leave his station to do it, so.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, right. So now, third case. While on a school trip, the students discover an unsecured, I don't know how they do this. Okay, the students discover an unsecured wireless internet signal from a neighboring office building. It is difficult to determine who the owner of the network is, and Shira, one of the students, is not sure whether the owner would want the students using the network. What happens if they use a network normally is it can slow down the service. Okay, that's what could happen. What?
No way.
So you're saying she cannot connect to the network? No.
Especially if she's questioning it.
No, she's saying it's unsecured. Why can't I use it? The guy didn't secure it.
This shows you the damage that all this technology has done to our culture. When I was a kid, if somebody would have had a similar kind of thing without the technology, use somebody else's something that's just somehow somewhere, it would have been absolutely not. But because, I've got my iPad, I've got my computer, it's all in the air. This is what it's done.
So you say
People
no.
have no
It's
boundaries.
equivalent to stealing, because they're
Okay.
paying for the service.
They have no
and you're
boundaries
doing it.
anymore.
Okay.
It is considered theft.
Okay.
By most people, because one would never connect on an unsecured connection.
One would think.
It's also a dangerous practice, because sometimes people leave those things out as traps.
Yeah.
That you have,
Your information.
yeah, you have an
Oh.
unsecured network, and everything that you're feeding to it gets captured by somebody else, and the next thing you know, you're buying a condo in Florida.
Okay.
Oh,
And
that's
you're in
He's
Alberta.
paying.
No, you're paying, you just don't know it.
Someone pays for a service and you use it without their permission, you're stealing from them.
Okay, good enough.
It's like
You're all agreeing. So in all three cases, you're saying no, 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 and the only exception you make in the first case, only the first case, would be if it's life endangering. Then you would say yes, you could use it without permission. Is that understood? I got everybody right there, right?
Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
Case 3, if it was a life-threatening situation, I would say.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be using the internet.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Right. Okay.
Only in a Steven Seagal movie.
Okay, so now, here we go. Let's look at the sources. It says in Baba Batra, it says, the argument is about one who borrows something without the knowledge of the other. One rabbi is of the opinion that such a person is legally considered a borrower, and the other opinion is that he's considered a thief.
I go with the thief.
Well, it's a Gemara, so it's an argument both ways.
Yeah.
If I borrow something without permission, without information, without you knowing, so either I'm a thief or I'm a borrower. By the way, let's understand what the borrower means. 1 second. If as a borrower, when I borrow something, then I am obligated, assuming there's damage to the whatever I borrowed, so I have to pay for that. There's no way out.
Right.
Okay, I have to pay. On the other hand, if I don't do anything to it, so fine, I'm a borrower and I give it back. But I'm totally responsible until it goes back to the owner. Okay, so it's not such an easy thing when I'm a borrower. I'm not getting out, yeah.
So then something that's intangible, like hooking up to somebody else's internet, that's a borrowing that can never be made right. I mean, it's intangible, so you can't be an honest borrower.
But-
That's a thief.
But it's a thief because it's not
So what happens
it's
if
not
you
a
hook up to the thing and something you do does something to their network?
a better
You can't make good on that damage,
course
because
you
you'll
can.
never know.
Oh, you'll never know, you want to say.
A better analogy would be I pitched a tent in the creek bed, and I ran an extension cord up to an outlet here, and I'm running lights and a toaster.
But you
and-
never will see that and make a flash flood, and you will pay.
But that's a better analogy for internet service, is that the Torah Center is buying electricity, and I'm jacking it so I can camp in comfort in the backwoods.
Right.
Yeah, because, the electricity
In comfort.
isn't any more tangible than the Wi-Fi.
Keyword.
So then you would pay for that.
If,
Right.
you should pay for that and say, hey, I'm gonna be running my,
How many people do you
But wait.
think will be jacking up and
Let's understand
the
something.
electricity and then
Okay,
paying
hold
for it?
on.
I don't
Like I
believe
said,
that.
the main difference between a borrower and a thief is the borrower only pays upon damage, and is responsible until the owner comes back to get it, and the thief has to pay. Well, if he's just caught, he just has to pay. But if he's admits, there's a whole class that goes with this. He may have to pay twice the amount, whatever it's going to be. So it could be there's a fine going in. That's really the two sides of the argument.
Damage.
Right. If I steal this computer, okay? So if I steal the computer, it's worth $300, whatever it's worth. So then, as a thief, I pay kafel. Okay, $700, double. Okay. As a borrower, I just give it back to the Torah Center. I'm fine. I didn't do anything. Yeah.
Let's say you have to take your mother-in-law to an ear doctor appointment, and someone is at your house and their car is parked behind you, and you can't get out of the driveway
Right.
unless you borrow the keys. Either you have to wake the person up and you know that the car didn't sleep well.
Well, you're answering your own question. Because the person who's living in your house has given implicit. It's really implicit. It's implicit. If I'm blocking the car, move the car.
The car's in front of you.
Doesn't matter. We don't have to get into. We don't have to get into. No, but like I said, if somebody's for instance, when I was home, and we would have when I was with my parents, and we would have sometimes 3 or 4 cars in the driveway, depending on who was home. And our driveway was not that big, so but we would all be blocking each other. 2 people would be one person would block the other one, so on and so forth. So it was understood that my father did, even though we're all adults and out of the house, or even in the house, we were still adults when we owned the cars. It was understood that if we had to move his car or he had to move our car, that was done. It wasn't a question. That's just an implicit thing of living there. And you don't have to say wake the person up and so on and so forth. That's clear. The question would be that if somebody's blocking you and they left the keys in the car, like in the first case, could you start it, move it, and
or even ask somebody else to do it?
Well, they shouldn't, that you're putting somebody else in that position. So that wouldn't be a good thing
Call the
either.
police and have that car.
Have the car towed. Okay, there you go.
Becky almost had his car towed.
Okay.
Just key it on the side.
There you go. So now in Choshen Mishpat, dealing with civil law, so we deal with the prohibition against stealing, and Rav Yosef Karo codifies the discussion about borrowing without permission. He says, everyone who borrows an item without permission of the owner is considered a thief. Period. End. Not a borrower, nothing else. He's a thief. Okay, and therefore has to pay accordingly. That's how the Shulchan Aruch rules. So now, what would be the arguments for considering borrowing without permission a form of theft? Well, the arguments say that it's not a form of theft. Again, we just went through it. If I'm borrowing the keys from the border or from a family member, one day you'll have 5 cars in your driveway, 2 in Yisrael. Okay, each one lined up near each other. You're going to have to move either your daughter's, your son-in-law's car, don't have to move your car, whatever it is. It's, like I said, that's implicit. But on the other hand, if we are in the Torah Center, and we have cars blocking each other constantly, so then the person doesn't want to get out, so then you have to ask, do I have permission to move your car, or would you like to move it yourself? Somebody's going to move it, and we can't drive over the grass because Rabbi Linda will kill everybody. So you can't do that. Okay? So you have to get people to move. So at that point, if they give you the keys, that's again implicit.
That's explicit.
Explicit permission, explicit permission to move the car. Okay? But you can't give it to somebody else to move the car because they won't give permission. Now there's like the kid with, it's in the store, let's say he has permission to use the internet. It doesn't mean that everybody in the world has permission to use the internet, or the computer. Okay? Okay, let's go on. So now, Rav Yom Tov, we're on the second page.
Which case?
We're on Rav Yom Tov Ishbili, known as Rizvah. So he notes a situation that may not violate the borrowing without permission rule and provides us with more. He says, one who borrows without permission has no intent to cause a loss to the owner, but rather use it and return it to its proper place, and even willing to pay for its use if it is something that is normally rented. Okay? So if I'm going to borrow a bike, then I'm taking responsibility for that bike. If I get it flat, I have to fix it. Okay? If I borrow a lawnmower and I break it in normal use, actually, it's the only case would be a question. If it's abnormal use, I certainly have to pay for it. But if it's in normal use and something happens to it, then it all depends. Is the owner with me? He saw that I didn't do anything wrong. That's what the Torah's thing is. And so then I may not have to pay. But normally, I'm just going to pay because I want to be a good neighbor. As a matter of fact, my neighbor took my shovel. It was very funny. He took my shovel, which was broken, and he broke it more. And then I suddenly see a new shovel on my porch. I said to my wife, where's the new shovel come from? So she said the neighbor borrowed it, he broke ours, and he gave us this one. I said, no, he didn't break it, it was broken already. He didn't realize it was broken, but it was broken. So I brought it to him and said, you don't owe me a shovel because it was already broken. He said, no, I saw that it was broken, but I broke it so bad you could use it when it was broken with you. You can't use it since I broke it. So I need to give you another one. I said, no, you don't have to because it was already broken. It's not fair on you.
Not beyond using though.
No, but still, it was broken. So I didn't want to feel responsible. In the end, so I said to him, how about we split it? No, you take it. I bought my own. Okay, fine. The bottom line was I took it. Thank you very much. I've used it ever since. And when I saw what he actually did with it, I said, you're right, I can't use it anymore. Fine. Okay. But it wouldn't be something that I would have expected or demanded of him because it was already broken. So you broke it more. Okay, so what? Okay.
I think you did the right thing.
Right. You know, I'm not arguing right or wrong, but it wasn't something that he was really responsible to as far as I'm concerned. But in this, because, by the way, he borrowed it, this is without permission. He borrowed with permission.
Would I be rude in asking you to lower your voice a little?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just get excited. Okay. Okay, I'll try my best. So, so here, like I said, here we're talking with a person who's borrowing without permission, and it doesn't have any problem. And it's, like I said, it's normally rented. He'll pay. Nevertheless, in using it, there is a potential monetary loss to the owner, and that's why they want to consider it theft in the Gemara. Okay, that's why the Shulchan Aruch also considers it theft, even if it won't get worn through usage. It is possible that it will break or get damaged. For if we are dealing with something that cannot get damaged, nobody is of the opinion that the borrower is a thief, because nothing wrong was done. You understand? So here, I go to Notre Dame, and I borrow a book without permission. And I don't get killed walking out of the library. I don't know how this is possible.
You'll get tackled.
Tackled, there you go.
Wouldn't have alarm doors.
I borrow it, whatever. I borrow the book, and I didn't get permission for it. Now, a book I can rip. I can do anything to a book by accident. Okay? No, by accident I'm saying. When you turn the page, you can rip it. Okay? If I did that, so I have to pay. I'm a thief. Okay? Even though I don't have the mind to do that. I have a mind to borrow it. By the way, people do it here. We have an honor system. Okay? So people want to borrow books from Midwest Torah Center in South Bend, Indiana. So people are watching wherever they're watching. Okay. So then what they do is they borrow the book. They may write it down. They may put something on my desk and tell, or they may even ask, whatever the case is. But otherwise, people can just borrow a book. We really don't require much. We don't have such a great system.
No security.
Yet. No security in our system. Okay.
I remember asking you that when I first came here.
Right.
Wait, can I sign out a book? And you were like, sign out? What do you mean?
Just take it, read it, and bring it back.
Right.
Okay? So what happens is sometimes, so a person, when they're borrowing it, don't have intent to ruin it. But sometimes the page rips. So what should you do? Buy a new book. Don't tape it. taping isn't nice. You can tape and keep it for your house, but don't tape it and bring it back to me.
Don't take a Notre Dame book.
Okay.
Even worse than.
Okay, so, but that's what we're talking about. So if there's gonna be a monetary loss, somebody has to pay for it. But if it's, let's say it won't get ruined, and you know what won't get ruined? These books for kids, the cardboard books. They're made for kids.
Regularly destroy them.
Which one?
My grandchildren.
No, I'm saying, but we can't.
We will.
We're not gonna ruin it. It's so hard for us to ruin those cardboard books. Kids rip them apart. Therefore, okay. But that's something else, okay? Or, like I said, if you borrow somebody's pet rock. Remember the pet rock?
That's their pet rock. No.
Pet rock. If you borrow the pet rock, nothing can happen to that pet rock. Okay? So if it was there, nobody would consider him a thief. He borrowed a pet rock, nobody's going to bother him. Okay? He borrowed, again, you should probably ask with permission, but he didn't do it. Okay. So now, case number 1. Rav Shneur Zalman of Leidi. He discusses the role of implied consent. And he says it is prohibited to go to one's house to read books without permission, even occasionally, and it certainly applies to other items unless it is clear that the owner does not mind, or if it is an item that people are not generally particular about lending because there is no concern for loss or damage in using it. By the way, this applies in Shabbos. Let's assume you go to somebody's house in Shabbos and you see a book. It's on the table or whatever. You have to ask permission to look at the book. Photo albums. All these things, you should really ask permission to do that. Instead of just assuming, it's they left on the table, it must be that they want me to do something. The answer is no, they have kids who take it out of where it was, and they left it there because they were looking at it, and they were too lazy to put it back. Okay, and I'm being generous when I say that. Okay.
But not you.
No, God said it. Okay. I know my kids. However, regarding something which people are hesitant to lend because they're concerned for the loss, or even if most people are not particular, due to the slim chance of damage or loss, one does not follow majority and assume that the owner will not care. So there's another proof that you would have to ask, can I or can I not look at this? Even if one is sure that it won't break, it is still prohibited since the owner might be concerned that it will break. In other words, the owner is crazy. But because we all know it won't break, but the owner is concerned it could break. So again, give in to the owner. And one who uses it becomes a borrower without permission, who is considered a thief, even if it turns out that there is no damage. You understand? Mm-hmm. So when I'm going to somebody's house, number one, I have to ask them if I'm going to, unless they say, when you sleep at somebody's house normally, or they say, my house is your house, mi casa, su casa, doesn't die, take whatever you want, on the refrigerator, you want to read a book, take a book. Once I have...
Don't touch my pet rock.
Right, don't touch my pet rock. Once I have that sort of permission that the house is yours, then everything is open to me. And I don't have to ask each individual thing that is there. Okay? But if I don't get that permission, and somebody just says, here's the key, because I don't want to stay up, here's the key, by all means come in, this is how you lock the door, but they don't give you permission, except they can take a cup of coffee, then the rest of the house is not your little playground.
You can't take a cup of coffee?
No, I'm saying, unless, except to take a cup of coffee or the breakfast, but if they're not saying, mi casa, su casa, that's how you say it, then you don't have the right to do anything. You walk in, you sleep, and that's it.
Right.
You don't start taking books out. And even though I'm going to put an exact same place, I know I won't ruin it. None of you, you're a thief. That's not a right thief, according to the Shulchan. You're using it without permission. I didn't get permission. Again, if I get permission, not a problem. But if I don't get permission, according to this, even though it won't break, okay? I didn't, for whatever reasons, I didn't want you to do it. Or for all the gun-toting people in the Sultan Pasha, where we sell that. So then, let's say you have a gun in your house. Most people don't want people to play with their gun.
You have my blanket permission if you're ever in my house.
Yes.
And you need to take down invading Cossacks to pick up any of my guns and utilize them appropriately.
There you go. Okay? So now, They don't know who he is. It's just only a voice on the machine. Okay? But it's no. But I'm saying most people wouldn't want you to touch their guns or their weapon, whatever they're going to be. Most people don't want you to unless you know how to take guitar or their musical instruments. Most people, besides being Shabbos, when you could, but during the week, most people don't want you to stop playing with that sort of thing. Okay, because people abuse it. Okay, so we don't want that sort of thing. So again, you have to assume that the answer is no until the answer is yes. Okay, that's how Reb Shneir Zalman is looking at that, and that's for those who don't know, that's Lubavitcher Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe.
So
And after you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So in their view, is it okay to ask? You can ask.
Always
You
ask.
have to wait till they offer.
Correct. No, you ask. You ask.
Okay.
Do you mind if I look at something? Do you mind if I
If they
use
say
blah
no,
blah?
That's it, no
Yeah.
hard feelings, just no.
Right. If they, but you do have to ask.
It's
Okay.
worth noting that after you borrowed the pet rock, it never again moved on its own.
Okay. I see people like the pet rock. Okay. So now, based on that, let's look at number one. Again, the case of number one was that she's walking home and she was stopping into the, it was raining, she wanted to get a ride home from her mom, she wanted to use the telephone. So everybody said no. Well, it was Jewish law in this one, okay? Jewish law would say, even though, well, most people would say, even though that is not going to entail a loss and it's not going to get broken, the odds of the telephone breaking because she's dialing it is extremely rare.
Dialing. Oh, what?
Okay, pressing the numbers, whatever you want.
What's telephone?
It's telephone. No, we all know telephone. Telephone is telephone. We all know telephone. So even though that the dial-up is not going to really do anything, like I said, it's not going to be any cost because it's a local call. It's only a local call she's calling. So even there, people would say, no, you didn't have permission, and you don't, and without permission, without an explicit permission, you shouldn't use it because you're going into the category of thief. Because some people may say, I may miss a call. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I'm a germaphobe. I don't know. I could be germaphobe, but maybe she is.
They had a cold, and I don't want to take
Right.
the cold.
So it could be anything like that. So according to certainly Reb Shneir Zalman, he was saying, no, you can't follow the majority, and you would have to say no to that. According to Shulchan Aruch, straight Shulchan Aruch, if you're using something that is without permission, you're a thief too. But again, there, no, he doesn't give any rider with it. Okay, fine. Oh, the only one who would disagree is the Yom Tov, the Ritva. He would say that since it can't be damaged, he would be the opinion that would say you could use it. Okay, as I said, if we're dealing with something that can't be damaged, nobody's opinion the borrower is a thief because nothing wrong was done. So according to the Ritva, she could have picked up that phone and used it. Most Jewish law would say no. Ritva comes on and says, go ahead. Because he can't do anything to it. Unless, in the normal use. Again, normal use.
Well, you could contaminate.
That's not damage. That's not damage. Okay. Now, a computer is not only susceptible to damage, it may contain private information, and one cannot assume that there is implied consent. While the cashier did give Mr. Goldman permission to use it, Mr. Goldman's concern that the cashier is not empowered to make such a decision has validity, like we were all saying. Who is responsible if someone permits you to use someone else's property and they weren't really authorized to do so? So in other words, here, I turned it on. I get you told me I can use a computer, Jack. So I say, great. I go in there because I assume you have permission. But then I open the site and I get a virus. Who's responsible to pay for that?
I am. The one who.
The one, it could be you, or you could say, no, it's really me. I opened up the wrong site. You didn't give permission to open the wrong site. So go to MapQuest. I went to the wrong one. Fine. So now you could, so who, the owner of the store would say to you, you owe me money. You, on the other hand, could sue me. I could say to you, Jumper Lake, you gave me permission. I just followed what your rule is. So I hit the wrong number. I'm sorry.
And this is all avoided by simply saying no in the first place.
To quote my Rebbe, what was the Rebbe's name? I want to make sure I'm quoting the right one. Rabbi Katz, of blessed memory. He said that if Jewish law was all black and white, we wouldn't have 8 volumes.
We wouldn't have what?
8 volumes.
Oh.
We would have 1 volume. This is the law of the alone. Okay. Obviously, there's shades. There's shades of shades of gray, and those shades of gray are what make the whole Shulchan Aruch what it is. So it's true that he could have said no, avoid all the problems, but the point is, like most people, he could say yes. So you have a response of Rabbeinu Asher, who was, I forget what years he was, but he discusses the case where Reuven took a loan from Shimon and gave a book as collateral. Shimon, the lender, then gave a book to the third person, Levi, with instructions to return the books to Reuven, the borrower, and the owner of the books, when the loan is repaid. When the books were returned, however, Reuven sees that they're damaged and wants Levi to pay for them. Levi claims that Shimon gave him permission to use the books, and if Reuven wants him to pay for the damage, he should take it with Shimon. You understand the case?
Yes, but.
No. Shimon borrowed money. Reuven took a loan. Reuven took a loan from Shimon. The collateral from Reuven was a set of books. Shimon now gives the books to Levi to say, return the books to Reuven when he pays up. Okay. So now Reuven pays Shimon. Shimon says to Levi, pay up. Reuven gives money to Levi. So Levi says to Shimon, return the books to Reuven. And so Reuven, what's the matter?
Okay, go
So Reuven now sees the books are a little damaged, and he wants to take the money from Shimon. And Shimon saying, well, I didn't do it. It's Levi who did it. Okay. So now, this claim of Levi's would be valid if he believed that they were actually Shimon's books. Okay, so if he thought Shimon owned the books, Shimon gave him permission to use it. No problem. However, he knew that the books belonged to Reuven because Shimon specifically told him, when Reuven pays, these are his books, please return them to him. Okay, he's a banker. Okay. So therefore, even if Shimon gave him permission to use them, Levi should not have listened, because what right did Shimon have to give Levi permission to use them without Reuven's permission? You understand?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? That's why when you asked me if you want to move Jackie's car, and Jackie gave you explicit or implicit permission to use it, you don't have the right to give it to Avi and say, Avi, move the car so I can get out. Because that permission was never given. She gave you that permission. So you can't extend that. You have no right to extend that permission. Okay?
More important, what kind of slova is Levi that he damages books? I
can't answer that. Okay, so Shimon never claimed that Reuven permitted Shimon to learn from them. Okay, so in that sort of a case, therefore it is Levi who I believe has to pay. Okay?
Wait a minute.
Right, Levi has to pay.
Wait.
Why am I waiting?
Levi should never have taken them.
Right.
No, he's holding them. He's a banker. What Reuven did was, again, Reuven borrowed money from Shimon.
Right.
Reuven gives the books to Shimon as a collateral.
Mm-hmm.
Shimon doesn't want to hold the books. He gives them to Levi and says, you be my banker. You hold the books. They're really Reuven's books. So what is going to happen is when Reuven pays me, you're going to return his books.
Okay.
It's clear.
Not to go ahead and learn from them, use them.
Even if he did say it. Even if he didn't say you can learn from them. You have no right. Reuven never gave me permission to give you permission.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. So it's really Shimon's problem. Shimon's problem and Levi's. Like I said, the same thing.
Yeah.
It's both problems, okay? But it's Levi's problem because he never should listen. He never should have listened because he knew it was Reuven's. If he thought, on the other hand, that it was Shimon's books, so that's what I meant. So if he thought it was Shimon's books, he never knew it was Reuben's books, and he learned from it, then he could claim what he wants to claim. I didn't know it was your book, Reuben. I did not know that. I did not have permission, except that it was Shimon's books. But now Levi cannot say that, so Reuben can collect from Levi. Reuben can collect from Levi. Because you can say, you knew it was my books, you used it without permission, you are totally responsible. It's not Shimon. Shimon, you sue what you want from Shimon. That's your business.
He's gonna pay him in donkeys.
Donkeys? Okay. That's from the other shave. Baruch Hashem, we got the donkeys in, okay. So according to Rabbeinu Asher, if someone else lets you use a third person's property, you should not automatically assume that it's acceptable unless explicitly stated that the owner allowed them to let others use it. Even there, by the way, I would question that greatly. Okay? So, for instance, my computer. Okay? Some people believe that just because I give them the code to get on my computer, they suddenly think that, and I noticed this, I didn't tell the whole Torah Center what my computer link was, but apparently everybody just knows what to do. So, sooner or later I'll have to change that. But it's something that I didn't give explicit permission, nor implicit. I gave it to one person or a couple of people and say, hey, you need to go ahead and use it, this is the code. Okay? And suddenly, like I said, a lot of people know that code, I'm thinking, why should I know the code? Okay? Or when it comes to our internet, where we have, again, a code. And it's not public information, and yet a lot of people know it. So who knows? I don't even know it, so I don't know who told them. But that's the question that goes into it. Just because I give you permission doesn't mean you have the right to tell other people what's going on.
I remember one time you had given me permission, and then I went back thinking it was, and then I realized, no, I better ask again.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very important, okay? So when it comes to this Goldman's dilemma, again, he has to figure out, the question would be asked from Mr. Gold to the cashier, does the owner give permission for you to do that, to give me permission? If the cashier says yes, I would still question it, by the way, and I would default to what you said. I think you said, let the cashier Google it. You said the cashier does. You said you can go on, you have permission. So MapQuest, print out the directions, I'll give you some money for the directions, and have a good day. I'm not going to go on the thing. It's not for me to go on, okay?
Plus the fact that a store owner's computer is probably located in the store office, which has lots of private and privileged information.
Correct.
So you wouldn't want to be suspect for any
Right.
of that stuff.
Oh, by the way, this goes back to what we were talking about before with identity theft.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, and this is what you're referring to also, if you're going to let somebody into the back room, that person can see all this information, and if they are an identity thief, then they can rip you off really badly. Okay, I hear that commercial
Not just
constantly.
you, but all the employees' information.
Correct. So that would be a reason why the cashier shouldn't do it. But I don't think Mr. Goldman would be a rip-off artist. So we're
hope not.
not assuming that he is a rip-off artist. Okay, so now, it's also, case number 3. It's arguable that the impact of an individual using an unsecured wireless connection is so negligible that nobody really minds occasional use. Let's assume that the owner's private data is not compromised. I don't know if we can assume that, but okay, he wants to assume that. However, if an entire class starts to use a connection, it can put a tremendous strain on the network. Does that prevent each individual of the class from using the connection? So the Talmud Yerushalmi has this discussion. Imagine, by the way, what I love about this discussion that we're doing is there's Gemaras that we can apply directly to these cases. Mm-hmm. That's something that you wouldn't think a 2,000-year-old tradition could do. Really. And I think that's something that, we have to, I have to applaud Rabbi Flug for finding these things. But it's, anybody who learns the Gemara and realizes, and this is from Rabbi Tendler, actually, Moshe Tendler said this, he said, when you're learning Gemara, when you learn the Talmud, if you don't update the cases to today, then you'll never remember it. But if you make it practical, you'll remember it for the rest of your life. So what Rabbi Flug is doing, and what hopefully everybody does when they learn the Gemara, is not just to learn it for Daf Yomi and spit the words out, but actually try to apply the cases
Right.
to what it is, and that's why it says in the halacha that one who only learns the Talmud but does not bring it to modern updated halacha to learn what the halacha says has not fulfilled the mitzvah of learning Torah. It's an amazing thing that the Shulchan Aruch says. He says you have to come, you have to learn everything up to what the actual halacha is. At that point, you've fulfilled that part of Torah. But not paying it forward, you just have to learn it so you know what to do.
Modern day living.
Right, you have to apply it. You have to be able to apply it, okay? So now, with that 5-minute commercial for why we have to learn, how we should learn Torah. Okay, so the Talmud, the Rishonim says, Rav Shimon ben Kahana was being escorted by Rav Elazar. They passed a vineyard. Rav Shimon said, bring me a splinter from the fence so that I may use it as a toothpick. He then retracted and said, don't bring me anything. If every individual would do this, the entire fence would be destroyed.
Right.
Nobody cares about a splinter that you're going to get off the fence. That's the understanding.
But it's setting the precedent.
No, I'm just saying, but we have to understand. Nobody cares about one splinter. That's clear. But he backed off because he said if everybody does it, there won't be a fence left.
Right.
Okay? It wasn't thief. It wasn't based upon that. It was just based upon a roar to Nolan, what the future is going to bring. Applying that to your internet is granted. If one person would use it, I'm not going to know about it. It's not going to slow it down. But if everybody jumps onto it, I'm going to have the slowest system ever. Okay? Shulchan Aruch comments, and it says, one may not steal or extort even to the smallest amount. If it is something that nobody is particular about, such as taking something from a rope or a fence to pick one's teeth, it is permissible. The Talmud Yerushalmi states that pious people should not even do this. So, halachically, again, if I want to take a splinter because I'm losing my teeth, I can get away with it. I'm not stealing. But pious people, the midas chasidus, which say I shouldn't do this. That's how we translate pious people. Midas chasidus. Okay? It's not nice. Because if everybody does that, like you show me, you're not going to have a fence left. So, we apply this now to Rashi's situation. To Shira's situation. And we say it like this. So how does she, what does it say? How does Shira's situation of using an unsecured wireless internet compared to the case of Yutal Yerushalmi, and how is it different? That's the question too. Is it different? Who knows? Now, if everybody jumps on, it seems that it would slow things down, but it won't destroy the net either. You'll have the net. So once the bus moves, then everything goes back to normal. Unlike the fence, that once the fence is all used up, you have to put a new fence up. It's going to cost the person money. Okay? So Rashi writes that lending an item to someone else is included in the mitzvah of Gemir Chasidut, providing acts of kindness, which is what you picked up. Okay? Lending an item generally has no downside. We would like to think that everyone else is just as generous as we are and would easily lend out their items, but as we've learned before, we cannot assume that this is true. Like I said, if you personally don't like to do it, it doesn't matter that everybody else will allow it. And that's what we can't assume you would want to do. We have to ask. Okay? Some people may have had bad experiences with lending items to others, and other people may need the item at that moment or are concerned about damage. If we use something without permission, and there is no implied consent, we are stealing that item and depriving the owner of the right to their own property. Okay? If we want to be just people, we are challenged to be abundantly generous to others while recognizing and respecting the absolute rights of others to their own property. So, bottom line is, we don't have the permission, according to Jewish law, we don't have permission to use other people's things without their permission. Okay? And if we do, we're at best, we're a borrower who's responsible for everything, but according to halacha, we are a thief. Even if we're not going to cause damage to it, if you take it without their permission, it's no good. If they give you, like I said, if they give you Like my neighbor is very nice. He told me, anything you need, there's a shed, go and get it for the gardening. Okay, fine. So now I don't have to ask him for each individual piece. It's to my advantage to do that, by the way, because when he gives it to me, then it's known whether it's good or not good. Because let's say I would borrow it and it would break, or I think it broke, so then, and he doesn't know it's broken, it was already broken when I took it, so then I'm responsible. I have to buy a whole new thing, even though I didn't do anything to it. On the other hand, if he gives it to me, and this happened, I needed something to spread the fertilizer on the ground, whatever, it goes like this. You walk with it, I don't know what it's called. You know what it's called?
A tiller?
No, the tiller. It spreads.
It's called a spreader.
The spreader? Okay, the spreader. So I didn't know. It's a technical name. The spreader. Okay. The spreader. Okay. Right. So what happened was when he was giving it to me, he realized that it wasn't working. That the thing you press, the spring press, the spring mechanism didn't work. So I was very happy that when he saw that when he was giving it to me. That's why I don't like to borrow anything.
You can't say use.
Right. I don't like to borrow anything without going to the person, even though I have total permission to go into the place. I don't want it. Whatever you want to give me, you give to me, and then I have it. We see it's good. Fine. If I break it, I'm responsible. No question. Okay. But if I didn't break it, or it was already broken, I don't have to worry about it. Okay. When somebody borrows if I lend somebody my, what's it called, the grass cutter, the mower. If I let them borrow my mower, the least I would think, but I don't require it, the least I would think is this gas. But most people, they forget to put the gas in. So still, I didn't say you have to, and certainly if I didn't give it with gas, so then, because it's a height, the only thing is if I give it with full gas, tank of gas, take a gas back. My father was very big with that when he would borrow my uncle's car. So my uncle who drove the car literally only on Sundays. That's sort of a driver. He only took it on Sundays. No, he had to do rounds. He was a doctor. But the other days he would take the train, but Sundays he had to do rounds. So so my father would borrow the car, and let's say it was at 3/4 of a tank. My father, when returning it, would always fill the car up.
Oh, that's nice.
Because he never wanted my uncle to say that you used my car and he didn't give me anything for it. He didn't want it. So my father would always fill it up. At those days it was 20 cents a gallon, but it wouldn't matter. It could have been $10 a gallon. That was my father's way. You fill it up, and he taught me the same thing. If you borrow something, you always put more gas in than you had, so there's no shy left. Okay, you take care of the car as you have it, or whatever it's going to be. So that's how I was brought up. But it's not mandatory. As a matter of fact, what's mandatory is what happens when you rent a car. When you rent a car, that's mandatory. We give you a certain amount of gas. This is the only amount of gas that we expect back. If you don't, you'll be paying a fine. If you give us more, it's your problem. Then we don't give you anything back. Okay? My father, I don't think, would want to fill up their cars more than they would have to do either. I don't think he would give them a full tank and say, go for it. No, which is why, by the way, if you go to Enterprise, it's always worthwhile to buy the tanks from them.
Right.
Because they get cheaper gas than we'll ever get. Nobody else does it. Budget doesn't. Nobody else. It's only Enterprise. I like Enterprise. It's only Enterprise cars that they're the only ones that give you a really good break if you buy the gas ahead of time. They give you like $3 a gallon or something, and it's $3.60 right now. So they're usually 30 cents under. But you're not going to make that. So it's just worthwhile letting them, and you bring it back empty, and you win. You win. Right. You don't have to worry about it at all. Okay. So like I said, when it comes to this case, we would say to Shira, honey, don't use the internet. You didn't have permission, because you're going to use it. It's like the fence. Everybody may end up using it, and then it's not going to be good. Okay.